She was humiliated on the street, mocked as junkyard queen, and filmed while pushing a cart of scrap metal. But what they didn't know was, she was building an empire in silence. Eden Blake, once betrayed by her lover and best friend, rises from the ashes to become the mastermind behind the most disruptive electric car company in America. Her revenge? Quiet. Her success? Unstoppable. You won't believe how she turns pain into power and forces her enemies to watch her soar. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful, soul-shaking stories like this one. The sky over Detroit that morning was a dull gray, almost as if it mourned with her. Eden Blake stood alone outside the gates of Blake Auto Engineering, her father's legacy, her life's dream, now slipping through her fingers like oil on concrete. The security guard, who once waved her in with a proud smile, now avoided her gaze as he locked the gate. Just a week ago, her name was embossed on every file folder inside that office. Today, it was scratched out like she'd never existed. Her father had died suddenly. Heart attack, they said. And within days, his estranged brother Richard had swooped in like a vulture with forged documents and legal threats. She didn't even get a chance to grieve properly. The court sided with him, citing chain of command gaps. Her belongings were boxed and dumped outside. She hadn't even taken the family photo from the wall. As she loaded the last box into the trunk of her beat-up Corolla, her phone buzzed. Marcus. For a brief second, her heart hoped. Maybe he was checking in, maybe offering a place to stay. Instead, the text read, "We need to talk. Tonight." Eden exhaled slowly, dreading the tone. When she met him later in the evening at the rooftop bar they used to call their place, he didn't even pretend to be gentle. "I can't do this anymore," he said, sipping his whiskey with unnerving calm. "You're not the same Eden. You're lost. And I need someone who's stable, not broken." The words sliced deeper than any lawsuit had. He stood and left without looking back. She didn't realize until 20 minutes later that he had unfollowed her on every platform. She sat at that bar until it closed, her breath shaky, her pride unraveling. 2 days later, she found herself dragging a suitcase across a downtown parking lot, eyes stinging from wind and shame. Every motel she visited was either too expensive or too full. The only thing she had left from her father was a leather folder stuffed with his last designs, sketches of electric off-road vehicles, notes scrawled in margins, and a dream titled Project Terra. But dreams don't buy dinner, and legacy doesn't pay rent. That night, she slept in her car, hugging the folder to her chest like armor. The car smelled of old takeout and stale perfume, the remnants of a life she no longer recognized. By the end of the week, she was working a parts stall at the Jefferson scrapyard. Just temporary, she told herself. But temp turned into routine. She wore the same black hoodie daily, not just to hide her face, but to hold together whatever fragments of dignity she had left. The stall owner, Tony, was a loud old man who barked orders and paid in crumpled cash. Eden kept her head down, refusing to let anyone see her tears. But humiliation found her anyway. It was a sunny Saturday when she felt a phone camera click behind her. She turned around slowly. And there they were, Marcus and Sierra. Sierra, her best friend since freshman year. Sierra, who once shared dorm meals with her, now wrapped in designer cashmere and clutching Marcus's arm. "Oh my God, Eden," Sierra squealed, laughter bubbling in her throat. Are you working here?" Marcus didn't even pretend to be surprised. He just smirked. "Damn, from Tesla test driver to junkyard queen. That's a drop." They laughed. People nearby turned to stare. Someone pulled out their phone. Eden stood frozen, her hands gripping a rusted axle, her breath caught in her chest. She didn't cry, she didn't beg. She just turned away, walked behind the shed, and vomited. That night, she sat in her car staring at the blueprints through blurry eyes. "I won't let this be the end," she whispered. "Not like this." And somewhere between her grief and the gasoline air, a quiet fire lit inside her, a heat that wasn't rage, but resolve. Let them laugh. They had no idea what she was about to build. The rain that fell 2 nights later wasn't gentle. It pounded the city like a cruel reminder that life didn't wait for broken hearts to mend. Eden Blake crouched beneath a rusted awning behind the scrapyard, her hoodie soaked, her fingers numb, and her pride cracked wide open. She had nowhere to go. The car she'd been sleeping in had been towed earlier that day, and she didn't have the money to get it back. Her father's blueprints, now folded carefully into a plastic sleeve, were the only things she grabbed before the city took the rest. Cold water trickled down her spine as she sat shivering on a cinder block, hugging her knees like a child. She wasn't crying anymore. There were no tears left. Only silence and the growing ache of being unseen. "Hey!" A voice cut through the rain like a blade. Eden looked up slowly. A tall woman in grease-stained overalls stood in the doorway of a garage across the lot, holding a half-eaten meat pie in one hand and a suspicious squint in the other. "You sleeping out here?" Eden nodded, too tired to lie. The woman tilted her head. "You look like someone who knows torque ratios. That true?" Eden blinked, startled. I studied mechanical engineering," she said, her voice rough from days of dehydration. The woman shrugged. "Close enough. Come inside before you drown." Her name was Clara Owens, 60 years old, 3-time widow, and owner of a forgotten corner garage named O's Auto. The place smelled like burnt oil and coffee, and it felt warmer than anything Eden had felt in weeks. Clara didn't ask questions. She just tossed her a towel and pointed to a pile of greasy rags on a cot in the back. "Sleep first, work later." Eden didn't even hesitate. Over the next few days, Eden swept the floors, scrubbed engine parts, and watched Clara work. The woman moved like an artist, her fingers dancing across machines with the precision of someone who didn't just fix things. She understood them, and she noticed Eden watching. "You gonna keep staring, or grab that socket wrench?" Clara barked one morning. From that moment on, Eden wasn't just cleaning. She was learning again, touching steel and remembering the rhythm of gears and pressure. She helped with oil changes, brake replacements, and eventually full transmission repairs. At night, Eden stayed on the cot in the back room, studying her father's blueprints under the dim glow of a desk lamp powered by a long extension cord. She whispered to them sometimes, like they were prayers or secrets too sacred to say out loud. She sketched modifications in the margins, imagining an electric SUV built not for luxury, but survival. Something durable, affordable, and powerful. Something that could rise from the dirt, just like her. But it wasn't easy. On more than one occasion, Clara's regulars made comments. "She don't belong in a place like this," one mechanic sneered. "Too soft, too pretty." Clara, unbothered, simply growled, "She works harder than all of you. Shut up or get out." And Eden did work, every single day without fail. She used her first tip to buy a set of used welding gloves from a flea market. Her second tip went toward a pair of steel-toe boots that were 2 sizes too big. She didn't care. Every coin was an investment in something she couldn't yet name. Then came the moment she knew she was no longer just surviving. She was preparing. A man dropped off a totaled hybrid sedan one afternoon. "Scrap it," he said. "It's worthless." Eden stared at the twisted frame, the cracked battery casing, the shattered glass, and she saw something else. Potential. She asked Clara if she could keep it. The old woman smirked. "What, you gonna build your own damn car?" Eden looked her in the eye and said yes. That night, as the rain came again, Eden sat under the garage's leaky roof, sketching silently. Around her, the world was still laughing, still scrolling, still forgetting. But Eden Blake was no longer broken. She was blueprinting her comeback. One bolt, one weld, one breath at a time. The car took shape slowly, like a secret rising from dust and memory. Eden Blake worked late into the nights under the flickering light of Clara's garage, her gloves worn thin, her palms blistered from hours spent sawing, welding, aligning. She named it Prototype 1, though it barely looked like anything yet. Just a skeletal frame, mismatched panels, and a salvaged electric engine she coaxed into life with parts from 5 different junkers. But it was hers. Every wire she stripped, every bolt she tightened, stitched together the pieces of a dream her father once dared to sketch. It wasn't just a machine. It was a resurrection. Clara watched from the shadows most nights, pretending not to be impressed. "Looks like a glorified shopping cart," she'd mutter between sips of coffee, but Eden would catch the pride in her eyes. The garage, once quiet after sunset, now echoed with the low hum of a grinder, the soft whir of electric motors being tested, and Eden's low hums as she lost herself in focus. It was therapy. It was purpose. They painted the frame in matte graphite gray, using leftover buckets Clara had stored from a past job. "This thing gonna fly?" Clara joked one night. "No," Eden said, wiping her brow with the back of her sleeve. It's gonna lead. It wasn't arrogance, it was faith, the kind born from nothing but bruised willpower. Word began to spread in whispers. Mechanics from other garages would stop by under the pretense of borrowing tools but linger too long, eyes narrowing at the half-built car in the corner. One of them, a short man with grease permanently stained into his fingernails, scoffed. "Girl thinks she's Tesla now?" Eden didn't flinch. She'd learned by now that mockery was just a symptom of threatened pride. She didn't need validation. She needed silence and space to finish. Then one morning, a man walked into the garage. Not a mechanic, not a customer. He wore worn-out jeans, dusty shoes, and a blazer that didn't quite fit. Langston Miles. He introduced himself with no flourish. "Heard someone here's building the future from a pile of scrap." Eden hesitated, unsure whether to laugh or lock the tools away. But Clara waved her on. "Show him," she said. "You've earned it." Langston circled the prototype slowly, his eyes sharp, his fingers tracing the lines of the chassis. "You designed this?" he asked finally. "Every inch," Eden replied, voice steady. She showed him the modular battery design, the adjustable suspension, the compact but durable steel framing built for potholes and neglected streets. He nodded slowly. "And your funding source?" Eden laughed dryly. "Faith, and whatever Clara's got in that coffee can over there." He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. "I invest in grit," he said, "and this is something. But if we do this, it has to stay quiet. No press, no noise, just product." Eden didn't even hesitate. "I don't want the spotlight, I just want the road." Within a week, Langston wired a modest but firm amount into Clara's account. With that, Eden purchased new tools, rented a corner of an old warehouse, and hired 2 apprentices from a community center. Young girls who reminded her of the version of herself that once believed the world was fair. They called the new workshop Blake Designs, a tribute to a name the city had all but buried. Meanwhile, Sierra and Marcus's fairy tale began to fracture. Photos of luxury vacations stopped. Comments on Sierra's posts asked why she hadn't posted her perfect boyfriend lately. Marcus's firm was facing audits, whispers of financial misconduct beginning to surface. But Eden didn't look, didn't comment, didn't care. Her work spoke for her, and slowly it was beginning to roar. By the 4th month, the first prototype rolled out of the garage under its own power. Compact, silent, sleek. She drove it through downtown at sunrise, her heart pounding as the tires kissed the same streets where she once pushed a rusted cart. People turned, some even clapped. She kept her head down. No press releases, no posts. Just a quiet return to the garage, where Clara stood with a smirk. "Guess it flies after all," she said. Eden smiled for the first time in weeks. "No," she whispered, "it's just getting started." The morning Marcus Holloway walked into Blake Designs wearing a tie that didn't match his shirt and shoes scuffed from desperation, Eden Blake was tightening bolts on a chassis. She didn't see him right away, but the receptionist's voice crackled softly through her headset. "There's a man here asking for an entry-level position. Says he's willing to clean floors, anything. Name's Marcus Holloway." Eden's hand froze. Not because she was surprised. Life had a way of circling back, but because the name didn't sting anymore. It echoed, sure, like a knock on a locked door, but it didn't shake her. She wiped her hands slowly on her coveralls, stared at the car she was building, then said into the mic, "Let him wait." And so he did. Marcus waited 3 hours in the lobby, eyes darting between the clock and the floor, the same floor he would later mop with trembling hands. Eden finally stepped out, not in grease-stained denim, but in a crisp black suit, her hair tied back, her eyes unreadable. She walked past him without a word and headed straight to her office. The message was clear. If he wanted redemption, he'd have to start from the bottom, like she once did. The next morning, Marcus showed up in a company-issued blue uniform with a name tag that read Custodian Trainee. He didn't ask for favors. He mopped bathrooms, emptied trash bins, scrubbed tire marks off concrete floors. Most of the staff knew the story. They whispered, not with cruelty, but with a strange reverence for the justice of it all. Eden never addressed him. She watched from a distance, studying him through security cameras, not with bitterness but with detached curiosity. He moved differently now, slower, more careful, like a man who had learned what it meant to fall hard and land on concrete pride. At lunch, he sat alone. No phone, no bravado. Just a sandwich and a silence he hadn't known how to carry before. Then Sierra Grant returned, not as a queen, but as a ghost of her former self. Her once booming influencer account was now riddled with trolls and hate comments. She tried to revive her image with empowerment posts, but the internet had a long memory. The same video she filmed of Eden pushing scrap, mocking, laughing, had resurfaced, now edited with the words "from ridicule to revolution." It trended on every platform. She was canceled in real time. Sierra arrived at the showroom wearing oversized sunglasses, fake designer heels, and a nervous smile. The receptionist hesitated before buzzing Eden. "She says she wants to talk, says she's sorry." Eden didn't respond for a moment. Then, "Send her in." Sierra walked into the office with the same energy she used to enter college parties. Loud, apologetic, desperate. "Eden, girl, you are killing it. Like seriously, I was just telling people how proud I am of you." Eden looked up slowly, her eyes calm and cold. "Sit." Sierra sat. "You betrayed me," Eden said, her voice steady. "You filmed me. You laughed when I had nothing. And now you're here for what? A handshake? A job?" Sierra stammered. "I just wanted to say sorry. I was young. I didn't mean—" "But you did," Eden interrupted. "You meant every laugh, every lie, and now you're here because the world finally saw what you are." She pressed a button on her desk. Behind her, a monitor lit up, playing the viral video, the wheelbarrow, the mocking voice, the hashtags. "It plays in all our showrooms now," Eden said. "Our customers like to know where we started." Sierra's face crumbled. "Please, Eden, this isn't who I am." Eden stood, walked to the window, and stared at the city. "No, Sierra, this is exactly who you are. You just never thought I'd survive long enough to show you." She didn't call security. She didn't raise her voice. She just opened the door and said, "Get out." And Sierra did, her heels clicking against the tile like an exit wound. That evening, Eden returned to the warehouse. She didn't speak. She didn't post. She simply picked up a wrench and returned to work, because revenge wasn't her goal. Transformation was. And while the world watched the downfall of those who mocked her, Eden Blake was quietly designing the next revolution. The letter came in a gold-trimmed envelope stamped with the emblem of the United States Department of Commerce. Eden Blake sat at her desk, hands still coated in graphite dust, staring at the weight of it. She didn't open it right away. She just held it, like a moment too precious to rush. Outside the window of the new Blake Designs headquarters in downtown Detroit, the city buzzed with motion, horns and footsteps blending into a hum she'd learned to tune out. But inside that office, time slowed. When she finally peeled the seal and unfolded the thick card, her breath caught. "You are hereby invited to accept the National Award for Innovation in Manufacturing." It didn't feel like a win. Not yet. Eden placed the letter beside the first blueprint she ever sketched, the one her tears had smudged, the one she used to stare at when her hands shook too much to hold a wrench. The world saw her as a phenom now, a disruptor, a queen of electric innovation, but she knew better. She was a woman who built her empire from silence, scars, and scraps. The day of the ceremony, she wore a deep burgundy suit, tailored by a local seamstress she once gave a loan to. Her hair was tied back in a sleek knot, and her heels clicked like punctuation across the marble of the Capitol Rotunda. As she stepped onto the stage, flashes lit the room, but her eyes only found two people sitting in the last row: Marcus Holloway and Sierra Grant. They weren't invited by name, of course, but Eden had personally ensured they were seated there. Sometimes closure needed an audience. She didn't begin her speech with data or credentials. She began with silence. Then she said, "There was a time I pushed a cart of scrap metal through rain while people who once loved me filmed my humiliation." The room froze, but I learned something in that moment. Pain is not the end, it's a beginning. A blueprint, even. Behind her, a massive screen lit up with the viral clip of her in a hoodie, drenched and hunched over a wheelbarrow. Then it transitioned to footage of her walking through the factory floor in her steel boots, engineers at her side. The contrast sent ripples through the crowd. Gasps, applause, some even stood. Sierra's face went pale. Marcus looked like he wanted to shrink into the upholstery. Eden didn't smile. She simply continued. "This award isn't about innovation, it's about transformation. And for anyone who's ever been mocked, ignored, or underestimated, this is your proof. You don't have to fight loud. You just have to keep building." That night, her inbox flooded with interview requests, TED Talk invitations, book deals, but Eden declined most of them. She wasn't interested in becoming a brand. She was already a builder. Instead, she returned to Osborne, the neighborhood where she once begged for a room. She walked the old market streets, approached 10 women who worked as manual laborers, and handed each of them a key to a new delivery van designed by Blake Designs, custom-built for their small businesses. The media caught wind. Headlines blazed, "From cart to keys, Blake empowers working women." But Eden didn't grant a single interview. She let the stories speak for themselves. One evening, Marcus showed up at the showroom, not with entitlement this time, but with something small in his hand, her father's necklace. He placed it on her desk, eyes downcast. "I found it at a pawn shop, figured you'd want it back." Eden said nothing at first, then softly, "Thank you." He lingered a moment. "I lost everything," he whispered. "But you built something that'll outlive all of us." She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "That's because I didn't build it out of revenge," she said. "I built it out of purpose." As he walked away, Eden turned the necklace in her hand, the gold catching the light. Her mother's voice echoed faintly in her mind, "The ones who hurt you will never forget you. Not because you got even, but because you got up." And that was all Eden Blake had ever done, again and again. Get up. Build. Rise. Not to be seen, but to be undeniable. Life lesson from Eden Blake's story, 300 words. Eden Blake's story isn't just about success, it's about resilience, dignity, and the quiet power of rebuilding when the world leaves you in pieces. She was mocked, abandoned, and stripped of everything, status, love, even shelter. But instead of retaliating with hate or public vengeance, she turned inward, choosing growth over noise, discipline over drama. And in that silence, she built something no one could take away. What makes her journey so powerful is that Eden didn't just rise, she rose differently. She didn't beg for validation. She didn't seek revenge in the traditional sense. She used her scars as blueprints and her betrayal as building blocks. Every insult became fuel. Every night spent alone, every whisper behind her back. She transformed them into steel, innovation, and leadership. We live in a world that often celebrates the loudest voices, but Eden showed us that real strength is often quiet. It welds engines in silence. It gives without needing a spotlight. And when the moment comes, it stands firm, not to gloat, but to remind the world that dignity survives. Let this be a message to anyone who's ever been humiliated, discarded, or overlooked. You are not finished. Your pain doesn't define your ending, it defines your beginning. Keep building, keep believing. Because the same people laughing today may one day be clapping when your vision rolls down the road. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I'd love to know. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss another inspiring story like this one. Your support means everything.